Fiji has a very unusual voting system. I think the sad thing is, in any country, if you don't allow oppositions to prosper, oppositions to be oppositions, then overall the country becomes weak. I think all experts say that no one party will be able to form government. So really it'll be at least two parties getting together and forming a coalition. Again, if Fiji is looking at the Indian based party, which is the NFP, I feel that the Australian relationship is becoming a bit stronger.
Good day everyone, my name is Navneet Anand from Fiji Times, India Times Australia and Voice aajKal local and global. In the studios we have invited Mr. Harish Prasad from Harish Prasad and Associates. Mr. Prasad, welcome to the show.
Navneet, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Having an experience of over 30 years in the law side, but you've been interested with the politics in Fiji. Normally when they say, after leaving Fiji, your heart is still with the Fiji and the people of Fiji.
Well, I like to think I've always had one foot in Fiji as well. So you're right, I've always had ongoing interest in what goes on in Fiji.
Even if you're working professionally here in Australia, what I see, you are always interested with the current affairs, that what is happening in Fiji at all the times.
Yes, I think we've spoken about Fiji affairs and politics and all that before, so we're approaching some interesting times in Fiji now.
Just to let you know, me and Vishalji, who is there on the camera, we both were in Fiji when Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese travelled to Fiji in PIF 2022 in July.
Oh, that was a great occasion, I remember that, yes, well done.
So Fiji is entering another phase of elections. They're going to happening very, very soon. So what date have they decided?
14th of December of this year. So
which is not very far.
Only hardly a month away, yes.
You being involved with Fiji and being keen on the elections and all the political parties that are working one way or the other, if I need to understand, what's your views on the political parties, Party A, Party B, Party C?
Well, as you know, the party called Fiji First, which was Bainimarama's party, that's been in power pretty much from the time the last constitution came in 2013. He's fought 2 elections and won both times. And this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Fiji has a very unusual voting system. And from what I've read and my understanding is, it's very hard for one party to get an overall majority. So last time Rambuka's party came fairly close. This time people think that there's a possibility that other parties could form a coalition and form government above Bainimarama's party. It's a possibility, but as I said, it's a very unusual voting system where a leader basically carries the party. So in this case, Bainimarama is very popular in Fiji, and it seems that the way politics works in Fiji, there's a lot of promotion of the incumbent government. So oppositions are always struggling to get some prominence, some publicity, and the government. One of the criticisms of the government has been in the last couple of years that they make it very hard for opposition parties. And there have been a lot of instances where people who were looking at standing for elections have been sort of obstacles have been put in their path. So a great example is a case of a lawyer. His name is Richard Naidu. He was going to stand for elections, and all of a sudden he's been charged with contempt of court. And a lot of people agree that the charge is fairly based on very trivial facts, but that's another instance of how the government has been criticized for getting rid of opponents as much as possible.
I normally say the opposition has to be strong enough for any country to progress in the right direction. When I say opposition has to be strong, at least they can make the government liable on the acts what they're doing if they're not happy that it's moving in the right direction for the well-being of the country itself, for the well-being of the people of the nation.
Absolutely, and that's what our Westminster democratic system is. And I can draw a bit of parallel with what's going on in Victoria. There's an incumbent premier. It seems that he's going to win again, only because people now say in Victoria there's a weak opposition, and the premier Dan Andrews is very entrenched. So these things happen in a lot of countries, but Fiji is a perfect example where the government is very strongly entrenched. Branches of government are very, very strongly behind the current government, and the oppositions always have an uphill battle trying to get some leverage, trying to get some hold. Even the media is clearly very biased in Fiji, and I say that in a polite way. You look at the newspapers and all that, they're all about promoting the government. There's very little publicity that's given to opposition parties.
Being a third party, looking at Fiji's progress in the last 10 years, what is your view? If you have to give certain points to the government out of 10, what would you give?
Look, to start off with, I would have given them 10 out of 10. But
Right.
as time has gone on, I think there's a lot of things to criticize about the government. We've covered a lot of it. I think the sad thing is, in any country, if you don't allow oppositions to prosper, oppositions to be oppositions, then overall the country becomes weak. There is greater potential for corruption, and of course, once people are strongly in position, they feel that they can do whatever they want because they have no opposition that holds them accountable. And I think that's one of the sad things that can happen as time goes on. So for that reason alone, I hope that there's going to be greater possibility of another government or another party coming in, because that's what we need in any system of government.
Sometimes when there is an establishment who is ruling the country for a number of years, yes, we cannot please each and everybody in the whole country. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose in pleasing the people, pleasing the masses. That's what I normally say. On that note, the opposition not being that strong, what could be the reasons behind it?
I think the first thing to explain is the type of parties or opposition we have. So as you know, Fiji First is the main Bainimarama government party, and then you have Rambuka's party, it's now called People's Alliance, and then you have other parties that have some support of the Indians, the old National Federation Party, although the Indian support is primarily behind Bainimarama, but still there's an Indian party called the NFP, or National Fijian Party. And also you have the old Labour Party, which was Main Chaudhry's party. So there's up to, I think, 9 parties contesting the elections. But because of the system of voting, any party needs to get at least 5% of the overall votes to even get one seat in.
Okay.
So that's the...
How many seats altogether do we have in Fiji?
I think it used to be 51. They've increased that to 55 now. So yes. So at the moment, I think the incumbent government has about 27 seats.
Right, right. So if we talk about the swing, how many % of swing is needed by the opposition to get in power?
Well, I think all experts say that no one party will be able to form government. So that really it'll be at least 2 parties getting together and forming a coalition. Again, reading what the experts say about the Fiji system, that probably is the only realistic way that oppositions are going to come in, by forming coalitions.
Having 2 parties coming in to rule the country, sometimes there are compromises done within these 2 parties itself, which are not in the favor of the nations at times.
And especially in this instance, Fiji is looking at the Indian based party, which is the NFP, forming coalition with Rambuka's party, which is an unusual sort of a coalition, if you like, because Rambuka
Looking
was
at the history.
Well, that's right, and Rambuka was at one stage the most hated person in Fiji, and now it's an irony that NFP will be forming government. But I think it's a great thing. I think people have to look forward rather than look behind you. So if it works, then it'll be good for the country.
I really wish Fiji to prosper each and every moment of the day, every month of the year and years by years. Moving out of election scenario, talking about Fiji's bilateral relationships with India as well as Australia. Where do you think we would be there in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's going to get stronger and stronger, especially with India. I'm really surprised and in fact quite encouraged that Bainimarama's government has done so much to support relation with India. Australia has made a bit of a comeback, I think. There was a concern at one stage that other Chinese and other countries were making a bit of an inroad into Fiji, maybe having too much influence. But recently, I feel that the Australian relationship is becoming a bit stronger.
On this note, probably we'll have another sitting after the elections are over and see who has taken over the country once again. On this note, signing out. This is Navneet Anand from aajKal and Fiji Times. Be with the Times. Mr. Prasad, thank you so much.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you.
One-stop answer to your Australian education and visa matters. Gemco Sydney. Dream big, achieve big.
Fiji Times. Be with the times.